All right, so let's talk about this number 23. What do you notice about the difference of the two distributions? Okay, so I see distribution 2, and I see that there's more variability, correct? That there's more numbers to the left and the right, all the way to where the tails are, than it is with distribution 1. Okay, distribution 1 doesn't seem to have a lot of variability. So if it has a lot of variability, that means it has to have a high standard deviation. So let's think about this. So let's just say my standard deviation is 0.2. Okay, so let's say it's just 0.2. All right, so let's say I have a sample size. Let's say n is equal to 36. Okay, because this makes life easy. So I have 0.2 divided by the square root of 36, because remember we're sampling, so we always divide by the square root, and I get 0.33. Okay, now let's just say n is equal to 100. So my n is bigger, so I get 2 over the square, 0.2 over the square root of 100. So it's going to be 0.2 divided by 10, and I get 0.02. All right? Okay, so let's talk about what we end up. What is our sampling distribution? Do you see that as n got bigger, my sampling distribution got smaller? And what did I say here? That the first one here is that it is not, the standard deviation is not so big because of the it seems to be very tight, close to the mean. So that means my n is big. So the answer is B. All right, so let's look at this graph here, this histogram. So there's 26 observations, and they tell us that 93 is an outlier, the max. And so we can see on every single box plot that there's a dot at 93. Okay, so this is about box plots, and box plots are medians and IQRs, and they talk about percents. They talk about percents. So let's first talk about median. Median is 50%. And so what is half of 26? So that's 13, all right? And so we're basically looking for the 13th guy, okay? So let's, for median, for the median, looking roughly 13%, not 13, or sometimes is plus 1. So let's say 13 or 14. All right, so notice that my numbers are 6, right? And then 4, so that adds up to 10 observations, then plus 6. That gives me 16. So that means that here, right here, the median happened, and that is in the 20s. So let's look to which ones here have a median in the 20s. It looks like that maybe A does. Okay, C doesn't. C is below 20. Do you see E is below 20? That maybe B does and D does. Okay. Now let's go do 25%. So if 50% is 13, then 25%, 25, let's go to another color since I'm going to be doing so. So then 25% is going to be roughly what, 7.5, or sometimes again add 1, 8.5. All right? So let's look at the numbers here. We got 6 for the first guy, then plus 4, that gives me 10. So therefore I know that the Q1 has to happen here at the 10. So let's look here. That has a check. This has 1 here between the 10s. And this guy does. No, darn it. We got them all wrong. All right, let's go to 75%. So I'm going to erase all this stuff here and go to another color. And so 75 is going to be what number here? So let's go to blue. So we had 13, that was half, and then 7, so this is going to be roughly 20 or 21, right? All right, so we start off with the 6, and then with a 4, that gives me 10, plus the 6, that gives me 16, plus the 1, that gives me 17, plus the 4, gives me 21, so that is roughly in here. So that is going to be in the 40s, correct? So we need to have Q3 in the 40s. Okay, well this doesn't have Q3 in the 40s. This might, and this guy does, okay? So now we're left with B and D. All right, so let's look at these. What else can we notice that they are different? I'm going to make this bigger. See if I make it bigger. Maybe we can see these. I'm going to erase my check marks. So what is different about this here? Okay, the difference is where they end. Okay, right here. Okay, so do you see here how the last values happens like right after the 60s? They say here the last value happens so we're in the 80s. I think they want you to put the last value at 87.25. So the answer is going to be D. Okay, so let's talk about number 25. Okay, so they're talking about a T here. And it says about a population mean. All right, so if you remember some of the problems, sometimes we have the mean, sometimes we have the standard deviation, and sometimes we have to use the standard deviation that is from the sample. All right, and that's when we have to do like, so when we do that, there's just more room for error. All right, so if you read all these guys here, the answer to number 25 is C, and that is because sometimes we don't know what the standard deviation is. We have to use it from the sample. Okay, so let's do number 26. Hope you remember these. So the expected value of y minus x, and you guys need to do this. It's in your Unit 4 flippy box deal. So remember, it's going to be the mean of y minus the mean of x. So the mean is 9 minus 10, which is equal to negative 1. So that means no A and no D. Okay, now remember when we talk about standard deviation, we have to do variance. And remember when we subtract, we add. Okay, so I get 3 squared plus 4 squared, which gives me 9 plus 16, which equal to 25. So if I want to go back down to standard deviation, I got to take the square root of 25, which is 5. So which one of these is left? Okay, so it's not here because this is standard deviation of number 1. Oh, it's C. Okay? Great.